know the story of David and Goliath? How little David killed the giant with a slingshot. And you might know that David became a king of ancient Israel during the days of the Bible. But you probably didn't know that Goliath had a younger brother. He was bigger than Goliath and meaner. His name was Ishbi-Benob. He lived in a cave in the desert. That cave was a dark and terrible place, full of snakes and bats and bones. Ishbi-Benob squatted on a pile of bones, thinking up ways to get even with King David for killing his older brother. One day, while hunting, King David chased a deer right into Ishbi-Benob's cave. Ishbi-Benob grabbed him and chained him up. "I'll get even with you for killing my brother." "Is there anything in the world that will make you let me go?" "If you can tell me the name of God, then I'll let you go." "Nobody knows the name of God, and nobody ever will." "In that case, I'll just have to throw you to my hungry lions." Meanwhile, at the royal palace, David's friend, General Abishai, worried about the king. General Abishai summoned 1,000 soldiers and 1,000 horses, 1,000 spear carriers and 1,000 archers with bows and arrows, and they all hurried into the desert to look for King David. Inside the cave, the giant heard a clanking and a rattling and the clatter of 1,000 hooves. He looked outside and saw General Abishai with the army of Israel. He yanked King David out of the chains, dragged him out where Abishai could see him. Then he threw King David up into the air, up into the clouds. To make matters worse, the giant brought out his cage of lions, so that when David finally fell down from the sky, he would land right inside the cage and be killed. They watched King David rise farther and farther into the air, and at that very moment, they saw a miracle. Up in the sky, the clouds parted, and they saw God himself. God leaned forward and whispered his name to King David. Just as he started to fall to earth, David shouted to Ishbi-Benob, "I'll tell you the name of God. God's name is..." But I don't know what King David said, because no one else before or since has ever known God's name. The moment he spoke the name of God, David stopped falling and floated back to earth. When the giant heard the name of God, he knew he was beaten. He stomped on the ground, and he stomped so hard that the desert opened up, and it swallowed Ishbi-Benob. And that giant was never heard from again. It's a good thing the story turned out this way, because if David didn't overhear the name of God, and if he didn't escape from Ishbi-Benob, then he and his wife would never have had a baby boy, and that boy would never have grown up to be wise King Solomon. And history would be different than it is today.